Hello, divine souls. Djemilah Birnie here with Becoming the Big Me. I'm so excited for this special segment of the Becoming the Big Me podcast. This section of the podcast is dedicated towards sharing the stories of conquest for some incredible individuals. They are also featured in my latest book, Becoming the Big Me, the Great Conquest. In this section of the podcast, we will dive deep into each of their stories and their journeys and their hardships, from addiction, PTSD, loss of loved ones and children. This segment of the podcast is dedicated towards sharing their stories and sharing their journeys, not only of the hardships, but sharing how they overcame. To learn more about the authors behind the stories that you are going to hear, go to thegreatconquest.com. And if you would like to purchase a copy of The Great Conquest book, you can go to bit.ly/Great Conquest. And without further ado, let's dive into the amazing journeys. Hello. Welcome back to the Becoming the Big Me podcast. I'm your host, Djemilah Birnie, and I'm so excited. I have a very special guest with me here today as a part of our Overcoming Obstacles series on the Becoming the Big Me podcast. Jenny Emerson is with me today. Hello, Jenny. Jenny is a transitions life coach. She helps individuals navigate change without sleepless nights and worry-filled days. Prior to being a life coach and licensed psychotherapist for 12 years, Jenny served in the corporate setting as a trainer of leadership and organizational development, sales representative, and as a marketing agent. But Jenny's journey hasn't always been easy, and there have been so many obstacles that she has had to navigate through to get to where she is today. Jenny's navigated her own significant life changes, including the death of a fiance, moving halfway across the country alone, and an ever-evolving career. She now resides in Nashville, Tennessee, where she is a lover of live music and a pet enthusiast, and she gets to help others on their life transitions as well. Thank you so much for coming, Jenny.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Yay, I am just so excited to hear a little bit about your backstory, because you guys, Jenny has a very powerful story of overcoming, and she really took that obstacle by the horns, and it has led her into her purpose and her passion of serving and what she's doing today. So Jenny, can you just like bring us back into your history a little bit so we can understand what made you to how you got here today?
Sure. So, my growth path, my life journey has evolved mostly around a significant love and loss, and career, believe it or not, is tied into that as well. So I'm one of those girls that I dreamed of being married young. I wanted to be married by 26. I wanted a baby at 30, 33, 36, and 39. I had the fantasy going, I was going to have, the husband was going to have this certain kind of career, and he was going to coach their soccer teams, and he was going to do this and that. And I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. I was going to make all these wonderful things happen for our family. My kids were going to participate in every sport, every dance, every, basket weaving thing they ever dreamed of doing. And life did not give me that. I did not meet the love of my life until 39. And for all the women out there, that number 40 haunts us sometimes. And so during this time when I'm looking and searching and all this kind of stuff, I was like, okay, this must not be what's going to happen for me. I have to focus on my career. What am I going to do? And so I was involved in the corporate world and moved up the career ladder really fast. I totally changed careers from being a corporate trainer was the last kind of corporate type job that I held. I went from that to being a licensed massage therapist, totally opposite. And two different worlds. And moved, numerous times all by myself, doing it on my own. And then finally, when I was here in Nashville, reconnected with an old friend from high school and through Facebook, the infamous Facebook, and so we dated for a while. I knew he had some health problems. I knew there would be a heart transplant along the way, but I was young and committed and determined, and we were going to get through that transplant. There's a year of healing, major healing the following year after that surgery, and then we were going to move forward. And life didn't work that way. Within just a few months after the transplant, his body rejected the heart and he passed away. So here I am at this tender age of 39 is the way I like to describe it. And he's gone. And it was my love. It was my dream. And then it was also this just wonderful human being that I had known for so many years that I lost. And I had to face 40 coming around and face the fact there was a very strong chance I would never get to give birth. There goes those 4 kids and all the soccer tournaments, and I didn't know what would be about marriage. And maybe eventually down the road I could, fall in love again. But the kid thing was overwhelming. And so once again, I poured back into my career, like, okay, if love isn't going to happen, it's going to be all about my career. And what has evolved in the now 10 years, August 23rd, actually, 10 years, I'm at a point now where I can have a wonderful career and help others do likewise and have a balance of love and joy and family and, social life and all those kinds of things. And so that's kind of what I've used to help my clients today. So there's my backstory.
Okay. So when you first met your fiance, you were in the corporate world at this moment?
When we first we had met in high school, but when we first started dating, at that point I was a massage therapist and I was getting my master's in marriage and family therapy. And so, yes, I've also been a licensed therapist as well. And I was I was in grad school at that time.
Okay. And y'all worked together too long before you embarked on this transplant journey together.
Yes, it was very soon within our relationship, and we just went at it as a team.
Yeah, and I know that must have been extremely challenging to navigate, going through that with someone that you loved. Can you kind of let us in on some of the emotions that you were feeling during this time?
When we first got, when we were dating and when we got engaged and when we were together, it was just this excitement, this pure joy, this, there's some of this, oh, it's finally happened. And then it's, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's him. We were friends in high school. Neither one of us thought it could ever be. And we're like, oh my gosh, it's really him. And we're doing this together. And, he was the sweetest, most tender man. And his humor was very intelligent. I loved his sense of humor. And I would never tell him this, but there were oftentimes I'd have to go look up and research stuff after he said something so that I could fully get it, because he was so sharp. He was an attorney. And so we share all these laughs, we share all this time together, we share this sense of, yes, we're getting married a little later in life, but we're going to do this life thing together. And then his body just didn't cooperate. And I remember that night coming back home from the hospital, and he wasn't with me. And I remember standing in the closet and I was like, oh my God, he's not going to put these clothes back on. And like, he's never going to turn around. I'm looking at the bed. I'm like, he's never going to be in this bed again. And I just walked through our home, just looking at all these different things, and was just like, it was this level of shock that like hit the pit of my stomach. And I just was like, I can't believe this has happened. I remember leaving the hospital and we were heading home. My family was with me and they were taking me home, and driving by a gas station and people were pumping gas. And I wanted to roll down the window and yell at them, what are you doing? Don't you know the world just ended? How can you just be pumping gas? And it's just their everyday life. They didn't know what was going on with me and a random car on the street. Mm-hmm. But I just remember this. It was just so shocking and just so like a gut punch. And I just couldn't believe everybody else's life was going to go on. And his was gone. And I felt like mine was ended. I may still physically be alive, but my life felt like it had ended.
And it can feel like that when you are experience a loss. So how did you navigate that?
A lot of self-work. I'm of course, being a licensed marriage and family therapist, I'm a big believer in therapy. I'm also have had coaches. A spiritual director. I had a circle of friends that came together, and I call them my angels. And it's as if their angel wings all came together. And I got to land right there in the middle of them. And they nurtured me. They cared for me. They let me talk about it. They let me not talk about it. And that was a huge aspect of it. But then my own work was the other huge aspect, in that I had to go through the process of getting to a place of acceptance of this is really what was. This was really my life story. And there was a lot of anger at God, a lot of anger for a couple of years. And getting to a place where I could, I'll be honest, I just like duked it out with God. There were some ugly conversations and it was intense. And in the whole time, I just felt like God, spirit, universe, whatever word you want to use. I'm not married to one word, but like that power greater than myself just held me and was like, I can take it all. I can take all this anger. And so just letting that happen and not pushing it down, not shoving it. There's a degree to which any person grieving lives somewhat of a masked life because everybody else has moved on a lot faster than the person that was, intimately close with this person. And so you're always a little bit of keeping up, a little bit of I'm moving on, I'm fine, to like a small percentage. But it takes a long time. And when you can allow that to happen and not realize it's not going to be the entirety of your life, you just let it evolve. And then I also was bound and determined that this pain was not going to be wasted. I mean, I went through hell, to be honest. And I was like, this pain is not going to be wasted. So I turned and I used it. And for a long time, I was a grief therapist. I didn't start that work till about 2 or 3 years after he passed because I wanted to make sure I was a clean vessel doing that work. But since then, I have used that experience and that that time of having to really get present with myself. I had to get to know myself intimately. I had to be honest and real about what was happening in my life. I had to make peace with certain dreams not happening. And then I had to say, okay, what's next? And keep putting my foot forward. And I was blessed with a great life coach. I was blessed with a great therapist that helped me just kind of keep transitioning on into the next thing. But I think at the core of everything, there was a determination that this was not going to be the end of my story. It just wasn't.
And I have this belief that life hands us the hardest obstacles to teach us the biggest lessons. Was there some large lessons that you learned through this journey, and can you share some of those top lessons that you learned?
Yeah, I came away with kind of three big lessons. And the first one is grace. Everyone, including myself, is doing the very best they can with what they've got. And grace to allow wherever I am in that moment to be where I'm at. I have a history of being very shame driven, that I'm not enough, or not, haven't achieved enough, haven't done enough, haven't become enough, all those things. And so for me, coming out of this was grace, and that I'm doing the best I can with what I got, and where I'm at is quite all right. Second big lesson I came away with was gratitude. And this really helped me look at and realize that, yes, we have these dark experiences in life, but there's also equal and opposite light in our lives at the same time. A close friend of mine had me start a gratitude practice after he passed away. She had done that when her husband passed. And she said, Dave, there are going to be days you don't want to do it, but do it anyway. Come up with three things. She goes, I don't care if it's as simple as warm, fuzzy socks, or as deep and profound as the love you had for him, that you're grateful for that. But it works. Gratitude works. And it, like I said, it really just helps bring in the light into so much darkness when you're going through these big obstacles. And the third lesson for me was growth. There's always room for more. There's always a next experience. And as long as I would allow myself to keep growing, I felt like I could keep thriving and going forward.
And I love that you have really exemplified the growth aspect, especially when it comes to navigating the different career changes that you have taken, and also moving halfway across the country alone. Like, those are big, big growth steps.
I think our connections, something's happened.
Oh, are we there?
There, I can hear you now.
I was just saying that you have exemplified growth with the changes in your career and how you have allowed your career to grow with you, right? Like you transferred from grief coaching into transitional coaching now. How can you walk us through some of that growth with your career and how that shifted over time?
Yes, it's funny you asked that, because just last night I was counting up my careers that I've had at this point, and I was like, Jenny, I think you've had about 5 or 6 so far, and I'm one of those that's okay. I'm not a person that gets into something and stays 20, 30 years and gets the Rolex at the end. I don't think many are in our society at this point, but so I started out right after college. I worked in a nonprofit and helped them with their national newsletter. And I realized nonprofit wasn't very profitable. So I left that and went to sales and did sales for a while. And then I was in corporate training, which I loved, and did a great job there. Worked for what is now part of Verizon. It was AirTouch Paging at the time, their paging division. They merged and formed with others to form Verizon. So I'd worked there, and then I worked in corporate training for the United Methodist Publishing House here in Nashville, worked with their national bookstore chain, and traveled across the country, um, teaching customer service and sales and leadership within their store chain. And then there came a day when I couldn't do corporate America anymore, and I went total opposite. So I became a licensed massage therapist, and um, so I went from this fast pace, sales quotas, and I didn't have a sales quota, but helping others, training others who were working with sales quotas, and all this pressure of deadlines and things like that, to listening to Zen music, and massaging people, and that kind of experience, and that right there was life changing, because it got me really more present in my life and really starting to have a great relationship with myself and with others. And so as a massage therapist, I'm working with folks, and I realize that I'm only getting half the story. I believe that our physical self and our emotional self and our mental self, our spiritual self, they're all intertwined. And clients would come back with the same areas that had tension and pain. And so I was like, something's in there, something, I feel like, emotional stress, whatever is in there. So I went and got my master's in counseling. It's in marriage and family therapy. And I studied that route because I believe whatever family we grew up in, whether it's one on the streets or a blended family or a traditional looking unit, all those impact how we do life in the future. That's just where we learn. That's where we learn how to do money. That's how we learn how to do conflict. That's how we learn how to do affection, all those things. So I combined this experience of working with people on the physical plane with working with them on their emotional and mental health. And at the same time, I was studying Reiki, auric healing, Kabbalistic healing, all this kind of stuff, to also work with folks in their spiritual plane. So now all that comes together at this point in my life. And now I serve as a transitions coach, helping people navigate big changes in their life. And I'm so excited that I've had all those past careers, because all that lays the foundation work for what I'm doing now. And I can work with folks, from various different backgrounds or different experiences they're having. So, it's just been a fun ride through all these different careers.
I would say it gives you such a dynamic experience from both the traditional setting to the, more out there, or that's not the right word, but the healing modalities and those different practices. And it really something that I love about that is because a lot of times it's either one or the other, and this gives such a holistic approach to transition. So I'm curious, Jenny, given all of the knowledge and everything that you've accumulated now, if you were to be able to go back in time and to give yourself some advice, like right when you were going home from the hospital, is there any advice that you would have told yourself from your perspective now?
I would tell myself to not isolate during the pain. Healing happens in relationship. And so whether it's relationship with other people that are grieving, relationship with family, relationship with friends, a faith community, a spiritual community, whatever it may be. And many times I would just like, well, nobody wants to see this ugliness. Nobody wants to see this pain. And I would just hide out at home and would go to work and come straight home and, grocery shop way late at night when people weren't at the store, things like that. And it did nothing but keep me in my pain to where that was all I saw. And so I'd say to myself, get out and go be with people. It happens in relationship.
Yeah, we can be our own biggest enemies sometimes just inside of our own minds.
Oh, so true.
So what's through the future for you? What excites you now? What motivates you? What gets you going?
Oh my goodness. Life is just fun. Life is great. I love what I do for a living. I love seeing people come out of these hurt places or stuck places or experiences of isolation that I've had and help them get to this place of freedom and a place where they're thriving and where they're experiencing all kinds of joy. Um, Other things that motivate me are I have some great family members and precious niece and nephew that are young and older ones as well. But working with these, being with my young ones and watching them grow, and they're, we joke and say they're kind of my adopted kids. And it, I just love every experience. I think what excites me is that it's okay that life is not all one way. There's a place for everything. And for us to know what salt tastes like, for us to know what sugar tastes like, we got to know what salt tastes like. Mm-hmm. For us to know what light feels like, we got to know what dark feels like. And so I just get excited about this freedom that I have now, that I don't take pain so seriously anymore. And that I don't take fear or being stuck so seriously. And I can work through it and use it for good.
I think what everyone wants to know is, are you happily embracing the single life with your career, or where did your headspace go after that? Because I know that you had a set vision and dream.
Well, I didn't date much for quite a few years after Robin passed away. It was a little hard to match that. He broke the mold kind of thing. Yeah. But, I started 2020 and I was like, I am getting back out there. I am ready to date. Good Lord knows it's been long enough. And I'm just really ready for a high quality relationship. And then COVID happened. None of us went too many places. But where I'm at now is like, I'm still single. I am dating and having a fabulous time. Some men come into my life for a short period of time, maybe 1 or 2 dates. Some men come into my life for a longer period of time, a couple of months, whatever. And I believe that there is someone that's coming into my life that will be long-term. And that's just going to evolve when it evolves. And so that is exciting. That's going well. And it has its place. And then my work is going well and it has its place. It just work no longer defines me. Mm-hmm. I use it as a definition to cover up the fact that I never got to get married and have kids. And so who cares? I didn't get to have kids, didn't get to get married for it. Okay. It's not a big a deal as I used to make it,
I could definitely feel this lightness in your energy around that. And which is awesome, because that's where we find happiness, right? Is when we just, yes. If it comes, it comes. Okay.
When I just back up and let the universe evolve as it does, great things happen.
It really does. And when you choose to live in your truth, which you have done and you are doing, and I love that you're not afraid to change and shift your careers, because that is something that we can get very caught or stuck into, the career mindset. Like, I have to stay in this one thing for my whole life. And you have allowed yourself to be fluid with life, with the changes. It hasn't been easy, obviously. Mm-hmm. You have had to learn a lot of tools along the way, but I could definitely feel that ease coming from you. So Jenny, what if if the audience were to just get 3 major points out of like everything that you've talked about and everything that you've learned through your journey, what are 3 takeaways that you would hope someone who maybe is experiencing grief or going through that takes away from this conversation?
Number 1, pain isn't here to stay. If you let it happen, it'll pass on through. Number 2 would be evolution is not a bad thing. In other words, let something new happen. You don't have to be committed to one set path your entire life. And number 3 would be to find that gratitude, to find that joy, regardless of what's going on, no matter how dark it is. Because you have to remember there is light, even when you're in a moment or an experience of darkness. There is light out there.
That's beautiful. So I know that some of y'all are going to want to continue to connect with Jenny. If y'all are going through a transition in your life, Jenny is here to help you. You heard about all of her experience and what she has gone through. So how can people continue to follow your journey, Jenny, and connect with you?
There's 2 ways. Number 1, follow me on Facebook. My profile is public. I'm constantly putting content out there, telling my story, talking about transitions work and helpful tips. So there's one great way. And then also I have a website, emersoncoachingandconsulting.com. So check that out as well. And there's ways to contact me straight through that. But would love to see you either on my Facebook page or through the website.
Awesome. And for all of my lazy listeners out there, you know I always put all of the links in the description down below. So don't worry about typing that into your search bar. I've got you. Until next time, this is Djemilah signing off.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of the Becoming the Big Me podcast. I know that you found value in hearing this story today, and I would love if you could show your support by going and grabbing a copy of our book. And you can do so by going to bit.ly/Great Conquest. You can also go to www.thegreatconquest.com for more information about each of the individuals involved in this process. Thanks again for tuning in.